Oh my god, I'm going to have so much fun reading this. Welcome to rSlash Entitled Parents, in which we read stories about these wonderful dads and these wonderful moms thinking that just because of the fact that they have children, they are entitled to do everything and they are entitled to basically walk over you. In this type of stories, Karens and Kens do their thing and they treat everyone horribly and they cry when getting caught. The following story that you're about to hear was written by this particular user called Sarafaras. And the name of the story is This is How You Deal with an Entitled Mother. Speak another language! Let's do this. The following story was written, by the way, 4 years ago, which is in June of the year 2019. So here we go. I always thought that these crazy people who don't mind their business must be a rare breed and that I would never encounter one of them. But somehow I did. So a little bit of background before I start. I was born in Pakistan, but came to Canada when I was 3. But by that time I could speak in Urdu, Punjabi and Hindi. The languages are fairly familiar and fairly similar in many regards. And then I came to Canada and English was my 4th language. As I grew up, I also learned Arabic, French and Japanese to varying competencies, but all within the realm of conversational. Having grown up in Canada, I have really no accent when I speak English, so you wouldn't be able to tell me apart from a Caucasian person if you spoke with me over the phone. But also, having learned so many languages, I'm able to pronounce a lot of sounds fairly accurately, so I sound authentic in all languages that I speak in to all but native speakers. Most of the languages that I speak sound different enough from each other that someone that doesn't know them can still tell that the language is different. I've traveled back home to Pakistan a few times, and I would always encounter those beggars who come up with elaborate stories like my wife is sick and she needs surgery. And I managed to get money for that, but I need money for the flight to reach her, etc. I came up with a fun counter to that, which was that I would act like I didn't understand them at all and I would start speaking in a different language that they wouldn't know. Japanese was my go-to language while in Pakistan. The reaction those people would have was quite hilarious. As per apparently new rules, instead of acronyms, I'll use fake names. I'll keep them all in 5-letter names, so the columns line up decently enough. So anyway, up to my story now. The cast consists of Karen, the star of the show, Jimmy, Karen's husband and a decent human being, Zaraf, me, Wifey, which is my wife, and Singh, restaurant manager. So my wife and I are at a Indian restaurant in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, enjoying our dinner and having a conversation. We speak in a mix of Urdu and English, just mixing up whatever feels easy. To someone listening in, they would be able to understand enough to figure out what we are talking about. We were sitting in a booth table, so it was only open from one side. Karen and her family, Jimmy and her 2 daughters that looked like they were in their early teens, were sitting at an open table with an empty table between us. My wife is Pakistani like me, and what some Pakistanis like to do is eat rice with their hands. I prefer a spoon myself, but at this time my wife was eating with her hands. Apparently, this Karen got offended at seeing my wife eat with her hands. When she came over, I started speaking in different languages, acting like I didn't understand what she was saying in English. I'll translate what I said and put it in parentheses, which language I said it in. Here's how it went. Karen walks over to our table with a sour expression on her face. Jimmy calls to her, telling her to sit back down and leave us alone, but she ignores him. She addresses my wife directly.
What's wrong with you? Can't you eat your pork in a civilized manner like the rest of us?
In Urdu, I reply to her, "Huh? What do you want? Can't you see we are eating?" Karen looks at me with surprise.
What did you say? What did you just say?
In Urdu, I say to wifey,
Don't talk to her in English.
"Just do what I'm doing." And in Urdu, I say to Karen, "You're just a crazy woman. Go sit back down."
Why aren't you speaking in English?
My wife starts smiling and I try hard to keep a straight face. We are just enjoying our meal. Why don't you go and sit down?" she says.
I just heard you speaking in English. I know you can talk in English.
In Urdu, I say to her, "Yeah, I can, but I choose not to do so." My wife then says to me, "Oh my, I think she's getting upset." And in Urdu, I say to my wife, "I know, that's what makes this so much fun."
Stop it! Talk in English like I heard you before.
And then I switch to Japanese and I'm like, "So you were listening in to our conversation? Don't you have any manners?" I was like, "Are? あなたは私たちの会話食べきていたのですか？マナーがないのですか？
Wait, that's some other language now. What the hell is this?
Karen says. Jimmy, Karen's husband, then says, "Leave them alone, Karen. They don't speak English."
I know they do. They just pretend they're not to.
It doesn't matter, says Jimmy. "Just sit down." I start waving towards their table. And in Japanese, I say to her, "That's right. Go back to your table, you loud cow." そうですね。テーブルに戻りなさい。うるさいバカ牛め。Karen, they aren't doing anything wrong. Leave them alone, Jimmy says.
She's eating with her hands. I can't let the girls learn her uncivilized ways.
She says. And then I say to my wifey, "I have an idea. Start licking your fingers." With my hands and my body language, I indicate her to do that. And then my wife proceeds to start licking the rice of her right hand off the top parts of her fingers, and that makes Karen rage even more.
Oh my god, look at how gross she's being.
Then stop looking at her if you don't like it then. And then in Arabic I say, "Hey, you dumb bitch. Do you really behave this way everywhere you go?"
He changed languages again. I know he did. His accent changed.
And in Japanese I say to her, "Yep, and I can keep changing."
He's speaking English.
You must have heard them wrong. They don't know English. Leave them alone.
Then why are they living here? They don't deserve to live here if they don't know English.
I was having a hard time keeping a straight face, so I disguised it by raising my voice and appearing angry. I gestured toward her and then pointed at her table. In Arabic I say then, "Are you really so dumb you can't even listen to your husband? Go sit down and stop embarrassing yourself."
You don't deserve to be here. Get out.
At this point, the restaurant manager, Asing, shows up to see what all the commotion was about. He was an Indian guy with a pretty heavy accent when he spoke in English, so I knew that he would speak either Hindi or Punjabi. "Excuse me, lady, can you please keep your voice down? What is going on here?"
This woman is eating with her hands and it's disgusting. She's corrupting my children with her barbaric ways.
Ma'am, there are no rules that forbid them from eating with her hands. Please leave them alone or I'll have to ask you to leave. Now Jimmy gets up and comes over to where Karen is. "Sit down, Karen. You've embarrassed yourself enough. This is why I can't take you anywhere. And then in Punjabi, I say, ignore this dumb cow. Her brain is smaller than a laddu, which is an Indian sweet. It's spelled Ladoo. The manager starts laughing at my comment, and Karen gets even redder in the face since she probably thinks that we are making fun of her.
All of you should get back to your country!
Jimmy just takes her arm and leads her back to her table and sits her down, telling her to just shut up. Her daughters look like they want to sink into the floor from embarrassment. I rumble a few more sentences in varying languages, as kind of venting before my wife tells me to just leave it alone. We finish our dinner about 10 minutes later, with Karen glaring at us the whole time. I go pay the bill, and as we are walking out of the restaurant, we pass near Karen's table. I call out to Jimmy in perfect English with no accent, while smiling and giving him a wave. And I say to him, "Hey buddy, I hope you enjoy your dinner. Have a good night." Karen's eyes bulge as she screams,
I knew it! I knew it! See? They know English! I knew it! Say they know English! They know English!
She tried to stand up suddenly, but instead ended up falling over backwards in her seat. My wife and I left the restaurant laughing before she could do anything else. So yeah. TLDR, too long did not read. Karen gets upset that my wife is eating with her hands. I respond to her in various languages she doesn't understand. Hilarity ensues.